I know, right? 2 live videos in one day. Jesus, what an arrogant, selfish prick. Anyway, I'm just coming across the top of Cabbage, Dead Man Pass, in Oregon, and just east of Pendleton. And it's a pretty day, so I thought I'd share. What the heck? And this was my very first hill in a big truck, almost 20 years ago. The guy who was teaching me how to drive was driving what they call an A-train, which is a 40-foot trailer and a 20-foot trailer behind a regular semi-tractor. And we weighed 105,500 pounds, which is 25,000 pounds heavier than your average tractor-trailer setup. And I had been driving most of the day, and I felt pretty good, pretty confident. And he told me, hey, dude, when you get to Cabbage, now see carefully, I don't know if the light will let you, that sign right there tells you there's a big hill coming up. He says, when you get to Cabbage, go ahead and stop. Don't even try. Just pull over, wake me up, I'll get us down the hill, and then, we'll decide from there. Okay, no problem. So I'm driving along, and he goes to sleep. So I get to driving, and I get over all these hills and everything, and I'm thinking, I got these hills. There ain't nothing to this stuff. They're a piece of cake. Everybody makes a big deal about hills. What are they thinking? I don't know. And so the evening got to night, and it was dark. And it was a dark and stormy night. And I came up to the way station here, and it was closed, so I drove right on by. That was easy. And about a minute from now, we'll start to see the warning signs. And they're pretty clear, but they're more designed for trucks of an era gone by, trucks that don't have engine brakes and brakes that weren't that good and whatnot. And so they tell you, if you weigh this much, you should go this slow going over the hill. And I thought, well, I got an engine brake in this thing. It's a 1992 Peterbilt with a Caterpillar engine. By gum, I'll be able to do this hill on my head. And so I cruised right on by all the warning signs. Because on all the other hills from Salt Lake City up until this point, I didn't need to worry about the advisory speeds. I was driving a big truck and doing a good job. Now, here we come. We're coming up to the warning sign, and it says if you weigh 80,000 pounds, 80,000, you do 18 miles an hour. And from that point on, it goes in 10,000 pound increments, and you can increase your speed by, 10 miles an hour, whatever, per increment. If you don't have engine brakes, that's a great warning. 6 miles at 6%. This is a pretty good hill. And again, earlier this morning I tried to tell you, I wish I could zoom in on the scenery and stuff while it's videoing. And Alicia Snook says, my bub was in Oregon last night. Well, I'll wave to him. And so, I'm not being snide, I'm being friendly. If I could zoom in and adjust the light on the camera, you guys would get a hell of a view, because in about a mile here, we're going to crest the hill. And man, I tell you what, it is dramatic. Because right now we're about 3,400 feet elevation. And we're going to drop most of that in 6 miles. It's sort of like a slow airplane. And here we go. Now, the advisory speed for no construction and all that stuff was what it was, but it doesn't apply because engine brakes. But you still need to slow down a lot. So we were just doing about 65, and we've been slowly slowing down. And now we've got construction coming up. They might even close us down to 1 lane. And the last thing you want to do on these damn hills is have to emergency brake, because you weigh a lot and you're going down a big hill, and if you emergency, you do a hard stop, it really heats up the brakes and makes them all squishy, and you run out of air pressure. The brakes are, all slick. And that's what they really do. They get slick. You can press that pedal right down to the floor and absolutely nothing will happen. Now, see way out there, that dark line out there, that's about 10 miles away. And I don't know, you just can't see it. The light sucks. But the freeway is way down there. I mean, you're like you're on approach in an airplane. It's awesome. We're down to 48 miles an hour. The speed limit is 45. We'll slow down a little bit more. And more dramatic scenery. What's really fun is when you come off this hill and there's fog, which happens more than a lot of other places. All that darkness out there is vast expanse of nothingness and a 3,000-foot void. The elevation of the land just drops. Pretty cool stuff. So when I did this 20 years ago in that 105,000-pound truck, and I was coming down this hill, right about here is when I realized how much of a boo-boo I had made. I was still trying to do 60 miles an hour, and people were wondering what the hell I was doing. And at this point, I realized I was wondering what the hell I was doing. And I stepped on the brakes good and hard and got it slowed down to about 40 miles an hour, which I thought would be enough because engine brakes. But a 1992 Caterpillar engine, the engine brakes on it are absolute garbage. Back then, all they did is made noise, and they weren't even that good at that. They just really, really sucked. And so, I had the engine brakes on full, and I kept hitting the brakes, and I just wasn't slowing down. I kept speeding right back up. If you look on the top of the other hill straight ahead of us, you might see a little ribbon of black. That's Shield Highway. I've never taken it with the truck. One of these days I'll take it with a bike just to see what it's about. And right in here is where I started to realize I was in deep trouble. So it's really hard to shift a large diesel engine when you're up against a hill and all that weight is on you. Shifting down means you've got to ride the brake and slide your foot over and pull the stick out of gear, rev the RPMs back up to a higher RPM by only about 200 or 300 RPMs, and then slide it back in. That's if you're at 13 speed. If you're at 10 speed, you got to do it 500, 600 RPMs. And it's got to go in. And if you miss, you got to try again. And in the meantime, you're still riding the brake, and all that weight is pushing, and the engine's not helping, slowing you down. And it just gets hotter and hotter and hotter. And I started to get a little panicky. So I just left it in the gear it was, took my foot off the gas entirely, quit trying to shift, and it stayed in gear, thank God. And I stood on the brake. And right about in the next mile or so, I think it was right about in here, but it might have been a little bit further down, which would have been even more exciting. I got pulled over to the shoulder and brought the truck to a standstill. But man, there was smoke coming out. Some guy driving behind me was on the CB radio. About goddamn time you got that thing stopped, you suicidal son of a bitch, ignorant bastard, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. It was all rudeness. But he was right. I went off the hill at way too fast a speed to begin with. Learning curve. And so I got the truck stopped, and I hit the parking brakes, and I woke up the other guy, and I told him, hey, kind of did a boo-boo, and he, oh, geez, get out of the truck. What? He says, yeah, go chalk the tires and release the brakes. So I went and chalked the tires with some rocks and released the brakes. Because if you get them that hot, if they're smoking, and then you stop and you set the brakes still, the metal gets so hot it will reshape in the shape of an oval instead of a circle, because the brakes are pushing out against it. And then when they cool off, if they're still in that same shape while they're cooling off, they stay ovular, and then you can't move. That sucks. So I got out, I chalked the tires, released the brakes, and we just sat there and let the brakes cool a little bit, had a cigarette, discussed how stupid I was. And then somebody else got on the radio and says, oh, there's a state patrol coming down the hill. So we just put it back in gear, rolled over the rock, and drove away. And that was my first experience with this giant hill, which can be, you know, going down it when you know what you're doing, it's really not that big of a deal. It does push your truck pretty hard against the brakes, but you start at the right speed, you have a good engine brakes, it's really not that tough. A lot of trucks have gotten in accidents and stuff like that. People from the eastern states, southern states, they have hills down there that are pretty dangerous and stuff like that, but they're not as long as this one. And so they get in trouble. They either come over here with trucks without engine brakes, or they start the hill too fast like I did, you know, all kinds of different reasons. They'll try to pass trucks and go too fast to do it in the middle of the hill and overheat their brakes once they've committed the pass. You know, all kinds of different crap. The bottom of the hill here, we're going to the end of it here. Isn't it beautiful today? Man, that green and blue and everything, it's just stunning. It's amazing. What's really cool is the end of this hill, they don't have, you know, they've got a couple sandboxes that you can stop halfway through the hill, but man, if you can get it to this point in the hill, you got about 2 miles of dead straightaway. You can just let it go, and as long as nobody else is in your way, you can just neutral all the way out. It's kind of cool. So I told you a story and went down a hill, and you got to see more scenery, and that was that. Thanks, Alicia, for watching. Everybody else that sees this later, thank you.